Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of From the Suggestion Box, navigating feedback, the good, the bad, and the say what, where we don't let the good things go to our head and the bad things go to our heart. I am so excited to have my next guest, Miss Sarah Middleton, joining us today. You all know that I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn, and she was a LinkedIn connection, and she has just brought so much greatness into my life. And I just was like, I need her. I need to talk to her. I need to have her on the podcast. So, Sarah, welcome. I'm so glad to have you on.
I'm so excited to be on your podcast, Nicole. I'm so glad we met over LinkedIn earlier this year.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, what Mission Up is, what you were doing right before that. Like what led to the birth of Mission Up?
Sure, I can share my career journey. After I graduated from college, I ended up spending a year as an AmeriCorps service member. And
Okay.
it sounds so cliche, but that 1 year totally changed the trajectory of my career. I had come out to Orange County, California to do that service year. And I honestly thought I would be in Orange County just 1 year and then I would go back east and get a real job. But I loved my service year so much. I loved the organization I was paired with, and I really fell in love with Orange County. And
Nice.
so I ended up staying a second year, this time as paid staff with that organization. And from there, I worked about 6 years in the nonprofit sector and learned a ton. After those 6 years, there was a job opening at PIMCO, which is a global investment management firm headquartered in Orange County. PIMCO was looking to build out an employee volunteer program. And so, long story short, I applied for the role, I landed the role, and I ended up spending a little more than 11 years at PIMCO. I
Wow.
built out the Global Employee Volunteer Program there, and I also became the first full-time executive director of the PIMCO Foundation.
Ah,
And we can talk more about that. I left PIMCO in 2018 and I started Mission Up shortly thereafter. And so I've been consulting through Mission Up for the past 8 years. And through Mission Up, I still work with companies, foundations, nonprofits. I work on various civic engagement initiatives too. And I still volunteer because I love it so much. And so I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you today and talk more about volunteering and everything else.
I love that. I love that. First of all, I want to thank you for clarifying which Orange County, because there's Orange County, Florida, and there's Orange County, California, so that everybody knows where you are. So that's a great start. Um, and man, kudos. And then I know you said it's funny because it's cliche, but like everybody who's had that AmeriCorps experience says the same thing, and it is absolutely life-changing, right? Um, and what a
Yes.
yeah, what a great trajectory that you started, you started there, you didn't think you were going to be there, then that ended up being 6 years, and then you got this other job, like, and it just like, I mean, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I know. And now, I mean, it's 2026, so I've been here in Orange County for 25 years and it's home now. I've built my network here, I've built my professional career here, and yeah, can't beat the beach.
I mean, absolutely. You can, I would have to attest to that. I would have to attest to that. Okay. So let me ask you this. In you having that experience of being a, having that AmeriCorps year and then um, having the opportunity to build out, like it's almost like the dream, right? To build out the volunteer employee program like from scratch and just have all of everything, at your disposal. and being able to see essentially both sides of like what corporate volunteering looks like and volunteering and nonprofit. What are the greatest similarities and what are the greatest differences that you see? And I say that because often uh I feel like nonprofit volunteering and corporate volunteering are cousins because I've listened to podcasts and I've heard people talk about like in the because I've always been like, oh, in CSR, they're just so much more supported and all that kind of, and I'm listening to a CSR podcast and they're literally saying the same things. Staff of one, limited budget, first thing to get cut. Like, oh my gosh. So, as somebody who's been in the world, like, what do you think are the similarities and what do you think are the differences?
That is such a great question. So let's start with similarities. So, yes, exactly what you just said. This is a lean role within companies. It many times is a team of one. It also many times is somebody who might be in HR or marketing, and they're asked to give 10 or 15% of their time to engaging employee volunteers. And these are individuals who really enjoy this work, they're passionate about it, but they also have a day job to attend to. And so there are striking similarities between these kinds of efforts embedded in companies and these kinds of efforts that nonprofits are trying to push forward. So just the capacity constraints. I think too, both your nonprofit volunteer manager and your corporate volunteer manager, you are trying to engage people around you. You're trying to motivate people around you. And of course, in both situations, you're going to have those early adopters, people who are all in, and they're going to show up each and every time. The question then is, well, how do you go deeper and find and engage all of those other people who have so much to give and contribute, but their attention is elsewhere? How do you hook them? Because once they're hooked and once they ideally have a great experience, they're going to keep coming back and supporting you and helping out. In terms of differences, I would say the resources at your disposal. And when I first moved from nonprofit to corporate, it was like I was at Disneyland. Like, oh my gosh, look at all of these resources. Like, I have a budget. I don't have
What?
to I don't have to type my, special code into the copier so we can track exactly how many copies I'm making at my nonprofit.
Yeah.
Um, so there was this sense of freedom and creativity and innovation in the corporate setting that I think is definitely possible in the nonprofit setting, but just harder to come by
Mm.
because you're working from scarcity rather than abundance, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. It's not always the case though, right? In some organizations, because I know I've listened to some uh podcasts where they're like, even in for-profit, and maybe I guess it just depends on how large the organization is, but like even in some for-profit organizations where they're having this, like there might so I almost feel like the difference is like in nonprofit there's not a budget and in for-profit there is a budget, but sometimes the budget is still small even though there is one.
Oh, yeah. 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 1,000,000%. Yeah. And to the point you said earlier, this is often the first function that gets cut when companies are looking to cut back, lay off, save budget because it's not a revenue generation
Right.
line item.
Right.
It's just not. Yeah.
So then, okay, so let me ask you this. I, what I hear of and often think to myself, like, goodness gracious. Um, to your point, you had said earlier in terms of like recruiting people to try to get them to do what to come and volunteer, et cetera, et cetera. How does one overcome, like as there's so much in my brain, I'm trying to get it out. Okay. So as somebody who's an employee and it's like volunteering, how do you find that balance of, because the barrier that you're working with them is like, yeah, I can't do it because I have to finish my actual job before I don't have a job, right? And so that's like a real thing to overcome. Whereas in nonprofit, it might be other competing interests outside of, that everybody has like 10 different places to volunteer. But within the organization, it's like, yeah, well, no, I have a project due and I can't be like, yeah, well, I was volunteering and that's why I didn't get my job done. Like, how does one handle that?
Yeah, it's definitely, if you are a CSR leader and you're running an employee volunteer program, you are working to influence the culture of the company.
Oof.
And so I think so much of the job is about messaging and communications and creating psychological safety around volunteering, because there is tons of research out there, obviously on the nonprofit side, also on the corporate side, about all of the incredible benefits that come from corporate volunteering. You're talking about boosted employee morale, you're talking about connection, you're talking about cross-pollination, employees meeting each other that wouldn't ever have any cause to meet each other because their job functions are so vastly different. They would just never be introduced. And everybody's out there in similar t-shirts. Titles don't matter. You're doing the same thing. And so I think it starts at the top of the company. Does your C-suite support this? Is employee volunteering and being out in the community something that your CEO feels very strongly about? I think that's 90% of the work. Because if you're a CEO, if you're C-suite at the company, if they're talking about volunteering, if they themselves are visible at volunteer events, that's going to create permission for the rest of the workforce to volunteer. When I was at PIMCO, we were extremely lucky to have that CEO support throughout. And it was always, too, a conversation between the employee and his or her manager. So, yes, maybe there was a volunteer event during the business day. And so sometimes employees couldn't make it because they were stuck at their desks trying to get the work done. Other times, it was a conversation between the employee and the manager. And the employee said, look, I want to go do this volunteer event and I'm going to be gone for 3 hours, but I'm going to come back. I understand. And I'm going to finish my work in the evening. But this volunteer event is important to me and I'm going to feel good going to this event. And so I think you're generating a lot of goodwill and it's just this open dialogue around the company. Yes, you have to get the work done and you have permission to also access this part of your personal life or professional life through volunteering.
I mean, yep, see, cousins. Got to start from the top down because if you don't have that support from the top, it's like you're fighting an uphill battle, and that's like the same thing. So nonprofit or for profit, like having that buy-in from the top filters all the way down, and like you said, creating that culture from the top. And also, I'm gonna just keep calling us cousins because communication is so powerful. Having that communication with the supervisor that says, hey, I want to be able to do this, and this is what I'm going to do, and having like a contingency plan, right? I'm going to be out for 3 hours, but this is already taken care of, and so is looking over this, or I'm coming in early or staying late to get it done. Like, all of those things still come into play because, and I say this all the time, like volunteering is volunteering just because environment is different, does it mean it changes that?
I love that. Yes. Yes. 1,000,000%.
So this leads me to something because I am always beating the drum of um invest in volunteer engagement infrastructure. Invest in volunteer engagement infrastructure. And like in nonprofit and other entities like I think it is definitely a thing in nonprofit. Like when you get to like colleges and universities, they're already structured entities to begin with because it's college and university. So some of that support is already built in because that's just the nature of the entity. And government, there's probably almost too much structure because it's also the nature of it. Um, Do you think that that statement, like how would I say that statement to you, fund volunteer engagement infrastructure coming from a CSR standpoint, what does that sound like or does that resonate with you at all?
It absolutely resonates. And I don't think it's a conversation that is widespread enough among CSR practitioners. And I think we need to change that. I think we need to start having that conversation both in CSR and also among foundations. We need to be investing in volunteer infrastructure because there is such an opportunity. It's like that is the least you can do. There is so much good. There are so many benefits that can come from investing in volunteer infrastructure, and it just hasn't been talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's again tons of research around it, talking about the Strategic Volunteer Engagement Initiative, talking about the work at Alive through Service Enterprise. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Service Enterprise stats. I mean, they're incredible. They're really powerful. And for some reason, we just can't seem to gain traction around this particular content topic in the social impact sphere. And I think, unfortunately, there's this idea that volunteering is free, that companies are sending nonprofits these skilled volunteers, and that's all they have to do. And, you know, I'm I'm to blame here too. When I was at PIMCO, I should have been funding volunteer infrastructure more heavily. And sadly, I didn't.
Hmm.
And I feel like I've caught on now. It took a while. I mean, it took some learning and reading and understanding. But when you're in a CSR seat, I'm not sure that the mindset is such. For sure, there are CSR practitioners and leaders who get it and who are funding volunteer infrastructure, but I think in total, not enough to really move that needle. But it's like the simplest thing. It's like the simplest opportunity out there in terms of changing some of these systems that we have.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because like I said, I feel like we are cousins and just haven't met. And I feel like I personally want to start having these conversations more because um I think people aren't talking about it because they think it just happens and they don't understand what it takes to make it happen. I was talking to somebody a little bit earlier today and he was like, you know, um, because he tried putting on his own community event and it didn't go as successful as he would have liked it to have had. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as successful as he would have liked. And so he was like, before I did this event, I was always like, at nonprofits, you give a donation and they want to take half of that and pay the staff, and then it's not all going to the people. And there's just like, oh, all the money should just go to the people. And then he was like, all the bureaucracy and this and that. And then he said he tried to do it himself, and he was like, yeah, we probably need a little bit of bureaucracy because there's some things that just didn't seem to. And he was like, but had I not gone through this experience, I would have never realized. He was like, I thought stuff just got done. And it
Mm.
was eye-opening for him. And so I think that there's a lot of people who just don't get it. They don't understand. I was at I got feedback from a session that I did like a couple of days ago, and people were like, "Oh yes, this was thrown into my other duties assigned, and I've never had any experience, and I had no idea all what it took in order to do this, and I've been flying blind for a year and a half." And it's like we just need to have these conversations because people don't know and they're running around flying blind, and there's all of this help out there.
Yeah, and I think too, at least on the corporate side, there's this mindset, well, that any kind of volunteering with a nonprofit is good volunteering. And that is simply not true.
Not
I
true.
mean, it could be a burden on the nonprofit. They might not need the company or those employee volunteers to do a certain thing that the company wants to do. It's like you've got to get on the same plane in order to design and co-create a meaningful volunteer opportunity that serves both the nonprofit and those employee volunteers. And I think too often you have that inherent power dynamic, and the company's asking for one thing, and the nonprofit feels stuck.
Yeah, and they almost feel like they have to do it. And they feel like they have to say yes.
Yeah,
Right? They feel like they have to say yes because, oh, they're coming and they want to do all this thing, and we need help. It's not necessarily the help that they want to offer, but how do we say no? And I remember I used to be on the end of that, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, we love the cause that you have. We have like 50 people that are coming in, and we need something that it has to be like Tuesday at 3 p.m. for 50 people, da 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 da." And we're just kind of like, uh the manpower that it would take to make that happen. It's in the middle of the day when we don't, it was just so inconvenient, and it was hard to say no. And sometimes you say no and they're like, oh, well, you don't want the help. I was like, well, it's not that we don't want the help, but that's not helping us. Like you said, that's
yeah,
creating burden.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so that's fascinating. I'm fascinated right now. I'm fascinated.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, how can we create more spaces where we have both companies and nonprofits in the room to have these very discussions?
Yeah. And I was at one Point of Light conference once, and I raised my hand and I asked my question. I was like, hey, just coming from the nonprofit side, I just kind of want to understand because this is what it looks like coming from us. And it was funny because people in the room laughed because they were like, yeah, often the reason why you all get those requests is because it's thrust upon us like that, and we're panicking. So we're running out to get the help. But it was like, oh, this thing has to happen, and they're panicking, like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So it's not like they're necessarily doing it on purpose, but it's this whole like, how do we sit down and talk to each other and help each other out? Like, do we
Yeah.
say, like, this is our whole calendar. This is what this looks like. So you don't have to scramble and we don't have to scramble, but we're having these conversations a year, 6 months in advance. So it's not a last minute thing.
Becoming true partners in the effort.
Yes.
Just creating that environment for true, genuine partnerships.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so here's another thing. And like I said, cousins, every time I say I'm just gonna like cousins. So you said something earlier, like you said, sometimes these initiatives start and it's like the HR manager or the marketing person or somebody who is just passionate about giving back and they're excited to start this initiative in their organization, but they've never worked with volunteers. They don't understand the first part. They have a really great heart and they know that they want to do this, but they don't understand the nuance of volunteer engagement because it is a profession and it's a skill. It is a skill. Volunteer engagement is a skill. And we have all of these super skilled volunteer engagement managers who have CVAs. And for people who don't know what that is, that's the Certified Volunteer Administrator Credential, the CVA. Um, and when they try to apply for these jobs, like within CSR, because the language isn't the same, it's like it kind of just gets overlooked. But all of the skills that they're looking for, they possess. And I'm just talking, list going from what I've heard and the experiences in the rooms I've been in, there's people who are leading these within organizations who kind of like that person. They're like, oh, I didn't even know there was a CVA, or I didn't even know this was a profession. I was doing all of this and I had no idea that there was support. And there's all these people who are out there, but as they present to be like an ideal candidate, because the wording isn't right or because of whatever reason, it's just completely like overlooked. That's baffling to me. So like, and I feel like um, CSR needs volunteer engagement professionals, needs CVAs. I'm a big proponent of how do we get like those who are skilled and with that CVA on the radar of CSR professionals. And that's one part of it. But the benefits of associations like Alive, which is the Association for Leaders in Volunteer Engagement, like there's stuff that people in CSR can take advantage of, right? They may not even know that it exists. So you've been on both sides. Help us build the bridge, girl. Talk to us.
Okay, I may have a solution, at
Oh,
least an idea. Let me just say first, I am a huge proponent of making the jump from nonprofit to CSR because I feel like those individuals make the best CSR practitioners. They understand nonprofit constraints. And I feel like they come into the CSR job with so much awareness and perspective, and so can really co-create amazing volunteer opportunities. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is I am working with a handful of other women on a new initiative called Social Impact Career Advisors, or SICA. And we have a website. It's socialimpactcareeradvisors.com. And we have recruited a number of advisors, and these are all fabulous people who have worked or are currently working in CSR, and they are making themselves available to talk to people who want to break into CSR, whether that be nonprofit professionals, whether that be students, whether that be people who are just ready for a more purpose-focused career. And so you're able to go to the Seeka website and look at the various advisors and see who you might want to talk to and book time with that person and just bring some questions about how did you break into this sector and what's it like on the inside and what advice do you have for me? Because unfortunately, I think CSR is a black box. Like you could get into CSR so many different ways. There is no one path. There's also not a lot of talk about how to break into it. When I go to industry conferences, you just don't hear sessions on that particular topic. So we're trying to change that through Sika and make the industry more accessible to those who might have a curiosity about it.
Yeah, and cousins because and volunteer engagement, it's normally not one path. Same thing. I'm telling you, we're like not only are we cousins, we're like first cousins, right? Like
Very close cousins.
yeah, so close that like we couldn't get married. Like it would be illegal to get married like close cousins, right? Fifth and sixth and eighth cousins, like whatever. No, we are first cousins because we're talking about the same thing. Now, here's the thing. When I was transitioning, when I was laid off, I wanted to go into CSR. And what I found is this is one area where we're not cousins. It was highly highly competitive. Highly competitive. I remember one person posted on LinkedIn once, and I think within like 30 minutes, it was something absurd that she had like, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 thousand applications and it had only been open for like 20 minutes?
Wow.
To the point where she was like, hey, y'all, so we're closing this. And the number of DMs that she got, like, hey, she was so overwhelmed, right? So in that aspect, we don't have like thousands of people applying for volunteer engagement jobs in nonprofit, although that's what we're striving for. But that ties back to we need to fund volunteer engagement infrastructure, including providing a competitive salary for volunteer engagement managers to do this work because um it's not easy. And so people who do this work, they covet that CSR because it's like, oh, it's doing everything I'm doing in nonprofit, but with a for-profit salary. This is like
Yeah.
the perfect thing.
Yeah.
So to the people who are advising, like it's like ridiculously competitive. Like how does one advise to that?
Yeah. The advisors who are part of Sika, they will share their own career journey, and some of them did make the transition, like I did, from nonprofit to corporate. I totally understand, though, it is extremely competitive. And I think what is helpful, and I also understand that this is easier said than done, but it's building that network, building your network, reaching out, having conversations around CSR, understanding the landscape, understanding who's doing what, understanding where the opportunity is. And there are certainly lots of CSR resources out there. I'm thinking of ACCP, the Association for Corporate Citizenship Professionals. I'm thinking of the Boston College Center for Corporate Citizenship. I'm thinking of CECP. There are many other networks and groups like that. There's another one called Women in CSR, which is totally free to join. And so, and maybe this is also an opportunity for Sika to put all of those resources together and make them widely available for those who are interested in breaking in. But yeah, I don't know that I have a good answer here. Um, I think part of it too is also talking to HR teams and recruiting teams and building the case to bring in individuals with a nonprofit background. Because you can teach the company,
Right.
whatever that company does, you can teach that. I think the skills that you're talking about to be a leader of volunteers, you have to have strategic influence. You have to be organized to the nth degree. There is so much else that you have to be and hold. It's a fantastic nonprofit to corporate hire. I mean, you bring in somebody who's been a nonprofit leader of volunteers, and like they can organize like nobody's business inside a corporate setting. So I do feel like there's probably some education to be had with HR and recruiting and talent development to build that bridge in a much stronger way. I don't know. I'm not sure any of that was a good answer, but I love the question and I feel like there's so much more we could talk about there.
No, I think that was a really brilliant answer, a great start. I know I personally have been trying to get in the ear of HR professionals because I think that's where it starts because that is the bridge, that's the door, that's the gateway in, regardless on the corporate side or the nonprofit side, because there's still people on the nonprofit side who still don't even understand the benefit of a skilled volunteer engagement manager. And, just like those people said, it's like, oh, other duties assigned. One of the most disheartening conversations I've had was with a disheartening, but also eye-opening and inspiring conversations was with somebody. It was the CEO of a talent agency that literally only hires for nonprofits. And when I asked about like, oh, great, so can we partner like to help our volunteer engagement managers get, she was like, oh yeah, we rarely get requests for that because it's usually taken care of and other duties assigned. And my heart broke. I just was like,
Yeah.
oh, oh, er. So for me personally, like those are the people who I'm trying to get in front of and get the ear of. And I think it's literally just because people just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. Let's start an education campaign.
Let's do it. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Mission Up. What exactly do you all do?
So I'll give you some
Everything.
examples. I'll give you some examples. So, for instance, right now, one of my corporate clients, I helped them rebuild and enhance their employee volunteer program. And now I'm essentially managing their employee volunteer program remotely and building up a volunteer champions initiative within the company to further amplify and promote volunteering. I've done work with corporate foundations on their strategy, on their grant making design, facilitating board retreats and grantee conversations. I've done work with nonprofits on, I would say, marketing and communications, some strategy, like taking a 20-page strategic plan and condensing it into a two-page plan that the board could understand, that donors could understand, kind of making it more digestible. And then on the civic engagement side, I've done work, for instance, on the 2020 census, bringing the nonprofit sector together in Orange County, building a cross-sector coalition to achieve a fair and accurate count, mobilizing philanthropy to launch a private fund to help support census outreach. And that was an incredible experience over a few years. So that's a lot. I'm not sure I have a great way of putting that into one sentence, but that's kind of how I define the work through Mission Up.
Okay. No, I love it. I love it. It's very well rounded. Um, So at the beginning of everything, we talked about how we connected over because we found each other on LinkedIn and you were like my spirit animal because you were like fund strategic volunteer engagement. And I was like, oh my God, yes, somebody who gets it. Ah. Um, so I'm just excited to have like you as a partner in that, just like in general on that. Um,
Ditto, Nicole. So glad we met.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So the name of the podcast is Navigating Feedback. So, well, it's not Navigating Feedback, sorry. The name of it is From the Suggestion Box. Let me put it that way, because sometimes you say feedback and people go, oh, they get all like, bent out of shape. So we'll say it's From the Suggestion Box. So what would your suggestion be to funders who are just like, hey, we're looking to fund capacity building, right? Because what I want to do is start really, when people hear the word capacity building, like in the nonprofit sense, when they hear capacity building, they automatically think volunteer engagement. Like those two should be almost synonymous, like another set of cousins. Um, but what suggestion would you have for funders? And what suggestions? Okay, here's three questions. Okay, I'm sorry, it's coming out. It's just coming out. So the first one
I
is,
feel like I should write these down.
I feel like I should write them down too. So the first one is suggestions that you have for funders in terms of if they're looking of somewhere to invest in, like what should they look for? The second one would be what would be your suggestion to um people who are in nonprofit who want to make that jump to CSR? And then what would be the suggestion to nonprofit organizations in terms of how they position themselves for funders to want to be interested? That was a
Hmm.
lot. I'm glad you were writing those down.
I'm totally writing them down. Okay. Love these questions. Let's start with funders.
Yeah.
There is a ready-made opportunity through service enterprise.
Okay. And
And
for people
the
who
web,
don't know, I'm sorry, for people who don't know what that is, can you explain to them what service enterprise is?
yes, and you may have to help me.
Okay.
It is a 12 to 18 month opportunity that nonprofits can go through to really build out their volunteer infrastructure and become a healthier, stronger organization. And it starts with a diagnostic that the nonprofit takes. And then the nonprofit is matched with an experienced trainer slash coach, right? And they work together for a period of time. And the ROI of service enterprise is absolutely amazing. So for every $1 invested, there's a $3 to $6 return. I mean, that's just incredible.
That's
It
incredible.
tells you the value of going through the service enterprise initiative right there. And really, service enterprise helps organizations build capacity through strategic volunteer engagement. And you can just Google strategic volunteer engagement and you can find a lot more data and research and papers around it. But that's really just a way to talk about volunteer infrastructure, capacity building, making sure that volunteer engagement is core to organizations. Um, and if you're wanting more information in particular about service enterprise and funders who might be listening, I sure hope you are interested. You can visit the Service Enterprise website, which is volunteeralive.org/service enterprise. And you can find out a bunch of info there and ways to support and get involved. But this is a ready-made funding opportunity. And for any corporate funders or other funders who might be listening, it's available for customization. So
Mm.
if you have a cohort of organizations in your grantee pool you want to talk about service enterprise with there, if you are looking to support regional efforts, there are so many different directions that you can take this to also meet your particular CSR foundation goals. It's kind of a no-brainer. um, so definitely check out service enterprise. I think that's just a really rich and rewarding opportunity for funders. The second question you had, Nicole, was what advice or ideas might I have for nonprofit professionals who are wanting to get into CSR? And perhaps this is a shameless plug, but definitely check out SECA.
Yeah.
social impact career advisors. And our Seeka team, we have a lot of ideas and plans in the works, from building out that advisor roster to putting together webinars and potentially even a virtual summit down the road to share all about CSR. And I think some people have this idea in their mind that CSR is great because all you do is plan parties, but they're parties with a purpose. And it's so much more than that. I mean, it's really an opportunity to support employee engagement, to position the company as a good corporate citizen in the marketplace, to create meaningful partnerships with nonprofits. And it goes even deeper. I'm just sharing some of the highlights. And we need people with nonprofit awareness. And I would even venture to say nonprofit humility. Like there's
Mm.
like if you're working in nonprofit, you just get it.
Yeah.
And ideally, you're close to the community too, and community is centered for you. We need more of those people in CSR roles.
Yeah.
So don't despair, don't give up hope. Keep working at it. We're trying to democratize this whole thing through Sika. And I would so welcome thoughts and feedback and ideas as our team builds out Sika and grows it. We want it to work for people. We want it to be resourceful and useful to people. And then your last question, which was nonprofits and how do nonprofits position themselves for funder interest? And that's another really good question.
I'm sorry. I'm just
Ah,
wrapping these like these huge sorry.
no, this is great. Can you turn this into a TV show? Like you,
I mean, if I could get
like
it funded, I totally would.
Nicole, you're perfect for this. Like these are the conversations we should be having all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, I think for nonprofits, have the conversation. Don't don't let the funder title scare you. Like
Hmm.
I feel like so many funders, and I know it's an act of self-preservation too, because I've been there. I've sat in that seat. But so many funders will say, "Oh, we only accept grant applications during this particular window, and we only fund X, and we only do this, or we only do that. We only have invite only, we only run an invite only process." There are barriers immediately when you're trying to engage with funders. See who you can talk to. Spend time on LinkedIn. Try to connect with staff at those foundations.
Hmm.
Join webinars, read articles, like definitely understand what the trends are, who's doing what as best you can. And hopefully with AI, that's becoming easier and less time consuming. But don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to reach out, send that email, ask for a conversation. There are really amazing funders out there. And I think the vast majority of them, they're trying to do good on their side too. And they can't do good without nonprofit partners. I
Yeah.
mean, it's everybody's in this together. And so have that conversation. Put yourself out there, and it might feel awkward. And again, the power dynamic is a thing, I know, but just see what you can make happen. I mean, hopefully people are open to conversations and just learning about each other
Mhm.
and seeing what creative ideas might bubble up from that.
Excellent. I love all of that. Just, you know, shoot your shot, basically.
Yeah, why not? Right? Like the worst they can say is no,
And then
but
you're,
you're not
you
going to
know,
know unless you ask.
right. And then if you do get a no, you're no less off than you already are. So, I mean,
Right.
it is what it is. Oh my goodness, Sarah, this has been so fantastic. Thank you for your patience and your grace through my technical issues and the internet coming in and going out and coming in. And oh my goodness, but I was like, we were determined to make it happen. And like I told you, I got this Dominican blowout. If you're not watching it, I got my hair blown out and I was like, oh no, we need to take full advantage of this blowout. Like I'm not walking outside, I'm not running outside, we are not sweating this out. She was like, we can reschedule. I was like, no, no, we are recording today because the hair looks good. So, like I gotta do that. So, but
Your hair looks amazing. Amazing.
thank you so much. If you're just listening and you're not watching, go to the YouTube page. You gotta check the hair out. You gotta check the hair out. Uh, but Sarah, just seriously though, thank you so, so much for your time and your insight. And I'm so glad that we've connected. I look forward to continually working and collaborating with you on so many things. How can people find you if they want to have more questions and reach out to you?
You can find me at my website, which is missionup.co. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. My profile is Sarah V as in Victor Middleton. So happy to connect with you. And I love talking about this stuff. So, Nicole, I just adore you. Thank you for the invitation to join your podcast. Thank you for this conversation. And I feel like if anybody can promote, push, change the game, it's you.
Oh, wow.
So, for sure, that is what I've learned since we connected since January. So, just again, thank you for the opportunity to talk about all of this. And I feel confident that if we just keep talking about it, things will change and we're going to create just a stronger sector altogether.
I love everything about that. So I will drop your LinkedIn and the link to your website in the show notes so that everybody can have that. So everybody, if you're still listening, I just want to thank you again so much for joining us for this episode of From the Suggestion Box, navigating feedback, the good, the bad, and the say what? Not letting the good stuff go to your head and the bad stuff go to your heart. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.